In this video, I'm going to try to go over some things that are necessary if you're raising fancy guppies and trying to keep a line at its optimum, or the best you can at least. And that would be culling. So with this view of this tank, you're looking at a batch of black Moscow males that I've culled, and I've been actually growing them out in a separate small container, 5-gallon bucket actually, and put some vitamins in there, not vitamin pills, stuff like Vitachem, and some Melafix, and do a lot of water changes. I'm trying to see if I can improve the fins, because some of them I culled because the tail or dorsals were nipped by tank mates, which is my fault for having too many fish in the tank. But with culling, it's extremely important for maintaining a quality line of guppies. And I know it sounds heartless, but keeping only those guppies that will be used as future breeders, or those that will be grown out to be sold to stores or online, or for some people out there, they might be growing them out to enter in local or national shows. So they're a reason that you would be culling, to keep the line as importantly perfect as you can. If you don't have the heart for culling fish, for killing them, then you could try a larger tank to put the better looking culls into, or trade them to a local store for maybe some store credit. The other option really is you can offer them to schools or to kids in the neighborhood and get them interested in raising guppies, which is something that's probably going to really have to improve for the hobby to continue, because if you notice, when you go into a fish store or whatever, you mostly got a bunch of us old geezers walking around there talking about the good old days. So anyway, but if you spend a lot of money, or a fair amount of money, on a particular strain, whether you bought it from somebody online or overseas, you're, without culling those fish, the babies, you're going to end up with a line of mediocre fish, no matter what they started out as. You'll have poor fin and body shape, because that'll be passed on down to the next generation, until you really are only left with a few nice fish if you're lucky. So I find that it's best to keep a batch of babies together, monitor the body and the fin shape and the color as they grow out. Some fish may develop a little later than others and turn into really nice fish, and that's one reason for hanging on to them a little bit longer. But some people are, I wouldn't say ruthless, but they're a little just methodical in getting rid of the slow growers as well. So when I get a batch of babies, I immediately cull out any fish that are sliders, they have bent spines, or obvious deformities. So if they have one eye, color variations, no driver's license, get rid of them. Not really with the driver's license. If you really don't want to kill them, and you have some larger fish like big cichlids, axolotls, turtles, you can feed them the guppies. At least they kind of fight for their life. It's kind of like Death Race 2000 for them. They hang in there as long as they can. But you're really going to have to either have a million tanks basically, or just start getting rid of the inferior fish, because all lines will give you something that's not quite as good as you want. So you can also immediately get rid of a percentage of the females if you have limited tank space. This will free up the space in the tank for the other fish, and so they don't have to compete as much for food. Now, I know it's heartless, but it's some of the things we have to do for quality lines. So if you have to dispose of fish, I would say do it humanely. Probably the best method is to put them in a container and put them in a freezer. Don't market chicken soup to play a trick on a family member. I think I tried that in the past and it didn't go well. So the next part of the video, I'm going to go over this tank of previously culled males, black Moscows. Now, as I get closer, you can see why some of these were culled. And of course, they're not sticking in the tank here. Now, this guy in the middle, let's see if I can get him on here. I'll probably uncull. I'm not sure why I culled him. Probably because of that head shape is a little odd, and so he may end up being unculled, as with this one. This one was culled because it's a 3/4 black and it's a black Moscow line. This one was culled because the tail and the body and the color are just all complete crap. So one would say possibly I should have fed that one to something a long time ago. This one's nice except the tail edge. Dorsal's a little thin. The tail edge is not good at all. And this one's got a weird body shape. And I'm sorry, they're moving around a little more than I was hoping. I didn't want to do anything to freak them out, but it's probably the back of the iPhone that reflects back into the tank. So like I said, from far away they look really good. As you get closer, you can see obvious deformities. Now with the black Moscows, it's a little harder to pull them out for color. Like this one's not too bad. This one's bad. And the reason why I say with color is they can appear to be a different color in the water, especially if with a water change, if they were shocked, if you put them into a small tank like this to do a video, they can change their color, out of fear, I guess, because like I said, I'm not a geneticist and I don't understand all the things, but I have noticed that the Moscow lines seem to have a different type of color, and it's possibly on the scale more than in the pigment. I really don't know, and I'm just guessing, but they have more like a velvet appearance with the color. So a few of these are going to get unculled. I'll probably include that in a video at the end and go over why I kept them. So that's kind of the general idea on culling, and I'm going to kind of stop here and then splice in another part showing what I'm looking for in the black Moscow males when I get them. Alright, these are 3 males that I've selected, one for the video and 2 as breeders. They have the qualities and the attributes that I'm looking for with continuing my black Moscow line. My line of black Moscows is not what you would see sold nowadays as full blacks. I don't know how the breeders recently have gotten the entire fish black with no white spot on the stomach. Kudos to them. I'm not sure how they did it, but this is these are some of the blackest ones I have, and have very little white coloration visible. This one's got an excellent dorsal, and of course the other one gets in the way. Really good tail. The color is good. It's definitely black, and these are more like I said before, a black velvet type coloration. It's almost like the black has depth, and it's the same with the blue Moscows, the green Moscows, etc. So I'm very happy with these 3. One of them has like a little bit of a rounded head, nose, whatever. So he kind of got by just because, and that would be this one right there. But the coloration was so black, the dorsal was so good, and the tail so good, I'm just going to use it as a breeder anyway. And the one of them in here, which I think is this one, has a little bit of a thin dorsal, but I like the length on the dorsal. It's a little longer than the others, so that's why he kind of made the cut. But these are three great examples, and very happy with these fish. Now you may only get 3 like this out of an entire drop. You may have to cull quite a few to get to this, and you know, that's possible. So I have some other fish that I culled. Now this one I think I've shown before. I'll see if I can do this without screwing it up. Hopefully without dropping them. This has turned into one of the largest red snakeskins, Russian red lace snakeskins I've had. The tail is absolutely spectacular, as is the dorsal. It's an older fish, so it swims like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, if he could swim. And the reason I culled him initially, he had really good fin shape growing up. He also had black pec fins, which I've never seen on Russian red lace snakeskins before. But if you look real close, you can see there's no snakeskin pattern on the body or the tail. So it's more or less an inferior red delta with not the greatest coloration in the tail, because it's so big, the tail so wide, but there is no depth of color. It's red, but it's almost translucent red. So the dorsal's good. It goes right into the back third of the tail, which is something you want. And the body is starting to get a little darker color, like almost like a not black or brown, but it's just age. So there's some gunk at the top. I tried feeding the fish to get them to move around. And anyway, this is an excellent one. Now, if I can get these on the camera, I culled this male, and he's got the black pec fins as well, which is really bizarre. I culled him because he's got some black spotting in the tail. It's the back of the top of the tail, which I don't like. But I put him in with a really nice female that has developed into a really nice fish. I have them in a rounded 1-gallon container for being able to film. I'll try to get a shot of her tail. There's 2 of them in there. This is the one I'm trying to get. Now, these females I initially culled because they had clamped fins, and I sort of got lucky with unclamping their fins by using Melifix and Quick Cure, and I got really lucky with that. I wasn't sure if that would work. I also put a little bit of salt in the water. So they ended up going from death's door to being used as viable breeders, as like a experiment. Because what I want to see is if using a fish that had a prior pretty serious disease will put out decent looking babies. So I did that experiment once before, a long time ago, with a female with a bent spine, and I did that out of necessity because it was the absolute last female I had of that particular line, and it actually worked. I got all 1 drop of fry, and I kind of got rid of her after that, and not one of those fry had a bent spine, and they were all pretty decent. Now that could mean that maybe her spine bent after an initial drop of fry, because that does happen to them. It's a lot of stress. But anyway, it was an experiment that actually worked. I also had an albino pop out, and I want to, without keeping that fish in the regular breeder tanks of the Russian red lace snakeskins, I want to have a male with the characteristics of the line. Hopefully impregnate her and see if I can get some babies and separate it out into a albino red lace snakeskin line, which I did have before, but I ended up losing that. It just became inferior, and at some point the females wouldn't fill up, they wouldn't get pregnant, etc. But one other thing I wanted to mention, that first tank I showed, if you remember seeing it, was a really old style tank that they used to make in the 70s or 80s. It's solid glass, real thick, real tempered glass, and it used to have a stain on it, which I stopped using the tank. But I bought this stuff, which I'm not affiliated with. It wasn't free. I bought it at Wegmans, and it actually got the crappy looking stain off the tank, which is probably most likely hard water, lime, something. But anyway, that spot was completely gone. So that stuff actually works. And if you have glass tanks and you have a hard water stains or whatever on the outside, try that stuff. And if it's on the inside, obviously empty the tank. Try cleaning it with this stuff. Rinse it out real good. Rinse it out good again, and then set it back up. But I was impressed with it. Anyway, that's the culled red lace snakeskin, and these are the non-culled black Moscows, which, like I said, I've had this line for about 12 years. I had started by it was a seller it used to be on Aquabid called Gold Pisces, and I bought a trio from him. Paid quite a bit of money for them back then. It was like probably around 2006 or 7. And I was actually the first person on Aquabid in the United States selling black Moscows when I started selling the line of them. The next batches of babies that grew out. And then what I did is I bought another trio from another seller, also in Thailand. I forget the name now. And I crossed them with my line of black Moscows. And it kept the line obviously black. Because I'm not kidding, this line dates back for me to 12 years. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of black Moscows for sale that are just being sold as Moscows, dark Moscows, blue, because they've lost the black and they've gained some spots and really defects in the tail. Either there's no color in it in some spots, or it's got white spots. So that's an example of how the line can deteriorate and fall apart if you don't take precautions in how to keep the line. And like I said in the prior video, I do that by running 2 lines of the same strain of fish, sometimes 3 lines, and then I crossbreed in at a later date, like 3 or 4 generations down the line, or as needed. So what's happening is it's related fish with the same genes, and but they're just enough not related to get out any impurities or issues that caused me to make the cross in the first place. So anyway, thanks for watching. I know I got a little rambly on it, but definitely an importance in culling your fish to keep the line as nice as you can. So thank you very much. Alright, this will be the final part of the video. These are the 3 happy guys that were rescued from the culling tank and added back into a normal tank. Although it won't be this one. This one I'm just filming a video in. This was that all glass, very thick glass tank I mentioned I bought in a hardware store years ago. But anyway, these guys were saved. This one was iffy because the head shape's a little odd. The color's good. The tail edge is not smooth, but it'll come back with some more treatments of the Melifix and the vitamins and salt. So this one I saved because the dorsal's very good, color's good, tail's good, could be longer, but that's nice. It's a very nice black Moscow, and one I'm not going to bump off or feed to the axolotl. Same with this one. Very nice fish, good dorsal, could be longer, but the black Moscows and the other Moscows normally don't get real long dorsals unless somebody's been breeding them specialized for that. Can be done, but they mostly have like a thumb type dorsal. But I like this fish a lot. The body could be bigger, which I'm hoping with stuffing them with food. The body on all 3 of them will get bigger. And once again, so you don't think I just took the 3 really good ones, they're right here. So, that'll end the video. Hope it's informative enough for people and not too boring. And I appreciate you watching, and thanks very much.